A man sits idly in his bathroom. He plays with an empty toilet paper roll. The man presses the toilet roll into his palm, questioning how long it will leave a mark once he stops applying pressure. The man recalls how long he's lived in his house without leaving or seeing another person as he stacks the toilet roll against a wall among many other toilet rolls. He has lived like this for 10 years. The man calls himself a hikikomori, a term used for somebody with severe social issues who prefers to stay alone at home all day. Because of this condition, hikikomori lives happily alone in his humble home, completely shut out from the rest of the world. Hikikomori admits that his life is untraditional as he falls asleep while still on the toilet. People who are hikikomori commonly live with their parents even long into adulthood, but he prefers to live alone. The man has a TV but never uses it, as he feels it's boring and he doesn't enjoy watching people in such a way. Instead, hikikomori prefers to read and has hundreds of books piled on top of one another all throughout his house. He claims that rather than go out and live life himself, he can live hundreds of lives through his books. He adds that he thoroughly enjoys organizing and stacking his belongings, as it allows for more space and convenience when searching for things. He stacks everything he has, including his books, food items, toiletries, and even empty boxes. He opens an envelope containing his monthly allowance from his parents. He explains that he uses this allowance to pay for everything, from food to electricity to books to clothes. In the beginning, his monthly allowance used to come with a handwritten note from his parents, but after the first year of isolation and no reply from hikikomori, the letters stopped. However, hikikomori prefers it this way, as he doesn't have to spend time reading or considering responses he could send back. He states that because of modern delivery services, he can easily order anything he wants or needs without the unnecessary bother of leaving the sanctuary of his home. When receiving deliveries, hikikomori does his best to never look at the person performing his delivery. He simply holds out the money and accepts his purchase. Hikikomori recounts his life before he became such a recluse. He had a regular office job and would get up early every day to walk across Tokyo under the blazing sun. He remembers how he always hated all of it, the tireless hours spent working, the trek in the bright and hot sun wearing a suit, and his co-workers. He eventually decided he didn't deserve to live this way and became the proud hikikomori he is today. Despite hating being out in the sunlight, hikikomori finds himself enamored by watching slivers of sunlight streak in through his windows, sometimes staring at it for hours. Hikikomori tries to keep track of time using his favorite clock, which hangs on a wall, but finds that time often has no meaning to him unless he's waiting for a food delivery. He adds that his days and nights always blur together after 10 years of such a lifestyle. He lazily watches the seconds, then minutes, then hours go by, staring at the clock. By bedtime, hikikomori makes his way to the toilet again, as that's where he finds he has his best dreams and hasn't slept in his bed for many years. Over a year passes, but nothing about hikikomori's life has changed whatsoever. His routine, hobbies, and habits all remain as they were a year ago, and as they were 10 years ago. Saturday is particularly special to hikikomori, as every Saturday he orders pizza, his favorite food. After eating his pizza in a single sitting, hikikomori relishes in placing the empty box on a perfectly stacked line of pizza boxes against a wall near his home's entrance. On one particular Saturday, the man orders a pizza and passes the wall of pizza boxes when he answers the door to get his pizza. Hikikomori tries not to look at the delivery person as usual but is shocked to hear a woman's voice on the other end of the door. This intrigues hikikomori, and he can't help but look up, only to find that the delivery person is a beautiful woman. Initially, hikikomori struggles to look away, as this woman is now the first person he has seen in a little over 11 years. This realization shocks him, and he awkwardly stops staring at the kind pizza delivery woman. Suddenly, an earthquake occurs, shaking hikikomori's house slightly. Hikikomori shuts his eyes, obviously anxious, and only opens them when the earthquake stops. When he opens his eyes, however, the woman falls unconscious on his floor, confusing and alarming him. He panics, unsure how to help at first. Hikikomori attempts to wake the woman with his words, but they have no effect. He watches her nervously, unsure of what to try next. Hikikomori resorts to spraying the woman's face with a spray bottle of water. This also has no effect, so hikikomori runs to the kitchen to get a glass of water. He returns and moves to pour the water on the woman's head to wake her up but stops. Unable to follow through, The woman continues to sleep, and Hikikomori decides to simply wait for her to wake up on her own. Time passes, and the woman remains unconscious. Hikikomori starts to feel concern for the woman, now more uneasy by her presence. He approaches her again, this time looking more closely. Hikikomori notices many strange tattoos that resemble buttons all over the woman's body, labeled with different English words. The man looks through his many books to find an English dictionary in hopes of understanding the words that mark the sleeping beauty's skin. After some research, the man presses the button labeled coma, and the woman immediately wakes up as if nothing happened. This surprises Hikikomori, and the woman is quick to ask the man if he pressed the button, to which he says he did. The woman falls silent, deep in thought. She points to his wall of pizza boxes, complimenting Hikikomori on his organized collection. However, the woman notices one single pizza box is the wrong way around and quickly makes sure to point it out to Hikikomori. The man immediately moves to correct this, and while he does, the woman looks around, almost admiring Hikikomori's lifestyle and organizational skills. When Hikikomori returns, he finds the woman has left his home and is outside on her motorcycle, where Hikikomori watches her pull away. Over the next few days, the man struggles to get the woman out of his head, as she is the only person he's seen in over a decade of isolation. Enamored by the memory of her, Hikikomori finds himself paying less attention to his routine as he's too preoccupied thinking about the woman. He struggles to even eat or sleep and barely feels anything during his once cherished toilet time. Hikikomori soon realizes he has to see the woman again to try and get her out of his system. He swiftly calls the pizza restaurant and orders another pizza only a few days later, before a Saturday, breaking his routine for the woman. Once again, Hikikomori eagerly answers the door when someone arrives but is immediately disappointed because the delivery is done by an old man instead of the woman he was expecting. The old man speaks on a cell phone as he hands the man his pizza and rudely barges into Hikikomori's home to avoid the rain. The old man requests to use Hikikomori's phone, and though disturbed, Hikikomori agrees. The old man is thankful and angrily yells at an employee who suddenly quit their job, using Hikikomori's phone. Hikikomori watches in nervous horror at the old man's rage and politely brings him a glass of water in hopes of quelling the man's fiery temper. After the call, Hikikomori timidly asks the old man about the woman and learns that she quit her job very suddenly, implying that she is who the old man was just screaming at moments ago. The old man comments that she doesn't want to work because she's addicted to technology and never wants to leave home. He adds that nobody seems to want to work anymore and blames it on an over-reliance and mass addiction to technology and electronics. Before the old man leaves, Hikikomori asks for her address so he can see her again. The old man decides to repay Hikikomori's kindness by giving the woman's home address to him because he was generous enough to lend a stranger his phone and give him water. Later, Hikikomori debates what to do next. He still can't get the woman out of his head and now possesses the means to see her again, but he doesn't know how to overcome his fear of the outside world to act on his feelings. The man tries to mentally prepare to leave the house while soaking in a bath, but the mere thought is terrifying to him. The following day, he eventually brings himself to step outside, but after putting on an old and used pair of shoes and opening the door, Hikori realizes he can't go further than the doorway. The light outside feels blinding to him, and Hikikomori gets very overwhelmed. He sulks in the doorway, feeling useless, until nightfall. The very next day, he finds himself in the exact same predicament, unable to cross the threshold of his doorway. However, his desire to see the woman again overpowers his fear, and he forces himself to go beyond his property. The man immediately finds direct sunlight unbearable after more than 11 years of no contact with it. He immediately feels that he wants to return to his home but continues. Hikikomori determines which way the woman's house is and decides a train will be the best course of action to reach her quickly. However, it soon dawns on him that a train will be packed full of other people, turning the idea into a nightmare. Hikikomori then turns around, deciding to instead take a bus, but he stops himself when he realizes taking the bus will bring up the same terror as taking a train. He attempts to use his bicycle to travel but finds it broken and covered in foliage after years of not being used. The man decides to travel on foot instead and begins running towards the address he was given by the old man. He is shocked to not come across a single person or car in his neighborhood. Everything is simply still and quiet. Hikori finds the lifelessness surprisingly unnerving despite fearing the opposite even more. Even once hikikomori finds himself on the main road, he doesn't see a single person, car, or moving creature except for a strange robot delivering pizza. It suddenly hits Hikori that everyone else seems to have somehow become like him over the last 11 years. And everything he feared and hated in the outside world has changed to be everything he stands for. It seems that in his years of isolation, humans have developed advanced robots and technology to perform tasks and take jobs, meaning humans can stay inside all day. He struggles with the realization but continues his journey with a new air of confidence, knowing he now has nothing to fear. After years of living in isolation and fear of what lies beyond the confines of his home, Hikori finally finds the woman's neighborhood and begins peeking through people's windows to see which house belongs to the woman. He looks in many homes and sees many different kinds of people involved in odd behaviors. He notes many people like himself who seem to be enjoying their lives bound to strict and complex routines, while others, who hikikomori discerns are new to such a lifestyle, still struggle to find entertainment and cling to TV for joy. Hikori then passes an older woman who he estimates to have been isolated for at least 50 years. He notes the lack of joy and lifelessness in her eyes and acknowledges that he too will reach such a stage in a matter of time. This idea scares hikikomori, and he posits that such a life can be avoided if he has some form of lifestyle change, suggesting that the woman is that exact kind of lifestyle change. Hikikomori then finally stumbles upon the woman's house, watching as she gives herself a new tattoo by the window. Hikori approaches and says hello, but the woman coldly closes her window when she sees the man. This shocks hikikomori, and he knocks on the door before attempting to open it. He calls out to the woman, begging her to see him, but she doesn't respond. Suddenly, another earthquake occurs across this neighborhood. This one is much more powerful and causes residents of the neighborhood to rush out of their homes and onto the street. Hikikomori calls out for the woman again, but she still doesn't respond. Hikikomori watches in horror as dozens of panicked people run down the road for their lives. Objects begin to fall seemingly from nowhere, and a man is nearly hit by a falling bicycle. The earthquake ends very suddenly, and residents don't hesitate to immediately return to their homes. Moments later, everything is quiet, and the street is empty again. Hikori turns to see the woman in her helmet checking on his well-being. She then quickly walks back inside, but hikikomori runs after her, grabbing her as he begs her not to go. He reasons that once she returns inside, she will never come out again, but the woman doesn't care and starts fighting hikikomori. Suddenly, hikikomori grabs her again, unknowingly pressing a button on her arm labeled love. The pair simply stare deeply into each other's eyes as another earthquake begins. After a strong gust of wind, Hikori lived life believing that happiness came from comfort and safety, but found something much greater after pushing himself out of his comfort zone and finding something new. He found understanding and connection. Hikori even found love. Thus, we reach the end of this film. Thanks for watching. You can like this video to support us. Don't forget to subscribe for more content. See you in the next video. Goodbye.